Well, friends, Harvard University just whooped Donald Trump in court again. So much losing. You know, it makes me think that Pam Bondi is really not very good at this attorney generaling thing. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, because Donald Trump is forever trying to punish Harvard University, I don't know, maybe fueled by an inferiority complex? Whatever the reason, Donald Trump tried to proclaim that international students may not attend Harvard. Well, that didn't work out so well for Donald Trump in court. But before we turn to the new reporting, if you'll indulge me just 30 seconds of housekeeping. As you may know, here at Justice Matters, we are an all-volunteer operation, up and running 7 days a week, posting a legal analysis video every day, and we couldn't do it without your support. So if you're interested in more formally supporting our all-volunteer efforts, our mission, our content, feel free to come on over to patreon.com. You can sign up to become a patron, and if you do, I will send you some Team Justice and Justice Matters stickers and a personal handwritten note of thanks. Okay, let's turn to the new reporting. This from the New York Times. Headline: Judge blocks a Trump effort to prevent international students at Harvard. And that article begins: a federal judge in Boston sided with Harvard University on Friday and blocked a Trump administration effort to rescind the school's right to host international students. The government's moves against Harvard have thrown the lives of thousands of visiting scholars into temporary disarray. But Friday's ruling by Judge Allison Burroughs allows Harvard's longstanding participation in the Student and Visitor Exchange Program to continue, at least for now. The administration had sought to exclude the school from that program, which allows 7,000 Harvard students and recent graduates to study and work legally in the United States. In a 3-page preliminary injunction, Judge Burroughs said the government, the Trump administration, was forbidden from implementing, instituting, maintaining, or giving any force or effect to the Department of Homeland Security's push last month to force Harvard out of the international student program. The judge also ruled that the government had to tell American diplomatic posts and ports of entry to disregard instructions to restrict Harvard's participation. David Super, a law professor at Georgetown University, said it seemed that the judge had crafted her order to try to prevent the Trump administration from pursuing other tactics to keep international students from Harvard. Now, friends, let's have a look at just a little bit of Judge Allison Burroughs' 3-page order granting Harvard University's motion for a preliminary injunction. In the case of President and Fellows of Harvard College, plaintiff versus Department of Homeland Security et al. And others, defendant, order granting plaintiffs, Harvard's, motion for a preliminary injunction. The court hereby grants plaintiffs, Harvard's, motion and enters a preliminary injunction against defendants, United States Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Todd Lyons, Student Exchange Visitor Program, John Doe, James Hicks, United States Department of Justice, Pamela Bondi, United States Department of State, and Marco Rubio, collectively defendants. Defendants, their agents, and anyone acting in concert or participation with defendants are hereby enjoined from implementing, instituting, maintaining, or giving any force or effect to the May 22nd revocation of plaintiff's Student and Exchange Visitor Program, SEVP, certification, including but not limited to through the termination of plaintiff's SEVIS access, any determination that a visa holder has failed to maintain non-immigrant status on the basis of the revocation of plaintiff's SEVP certification, any adverse action or determination with respect to a visa application on the basis of the revocation of plaintiff's SEVP certification, or any denial of admission to the United States on the basis of the revocation of plaintiff's SEVP certification. I think it's fair to say that Judge Burroughs don't play. Can I read you just one more short passage from Judge Burroughs' order? Subsection D. Trump and company are directed to immediately prepare guidance to defendants' officers, staff, employees, and contractors, including but not limited to those at each consulate, embassy, field office, and port of entry, to disregard the May 22nd revocation notice and to restore every visa holder and applicant to the position that individual would have been absent such revocation notice. Defendant's guidance must be issued within 72 hours of the entry of this order. You know, friends, if you look up the term no nonsense in the dictionary, you just might see Judge Allison Burroughs' picture. But let's turn our attention to Attorney General Pam Bondi and her DOJ lawyers who are going into court in Trump and Trump-related cases and losing 96% of the time, based on a recent statistical analysis by a Stanford political science professor. 96% of the time. And you know, I don't even blame the lawyers who are going in and losing in case after case after case. Now, I blame them for having, let's call it, shallow ethics, because they're going into court and they're arguing in favor of what is plainly unlawful and unconstitutional conduct by Donald Trump. That's something no attorney should do. But I blame most directly Pam Bondi, because she's the one sending them into court, making them, insisting that they, directing them to try to support the unsupportable, unlawful and unconstitutional acts, conduct, executive orders by Donald Trump. Remember one of Donald Trump's first unconstitutional acts after he was sworn in? He tried to revoke the constitutional guarantee of birthright citizenship. And what did the federal judge say about that? A Ronald Reagan appointed judge, no less, who's been on the bench for 40 years. The judge said, this is blatantly unconstitutional. Where were the lawyers in the room when Trump was signing this? Friends, that speaks volumes about what Pam Bondi should have done. She should have declined to send her DOJ lawyers into court to defend the indefensible, the unlawful, the unconstitutional. Friends, remember Sally Yates during Trump's first administration? Remember what she did? More precisely, what she declined to do? When Donald Trump authored a hateful, unconstitutional Muslim ban, his very first attempt at a Muslim ban, then acting Attorney General Sally Yates said, I will not defend this in court. It's unconstitutional. Of course, she was fired for deciding to do the ethical thing, for remaining loyal to her oath to the Constitution, for representing the interests of the American people. She was fired. But that's what you do, what Sally Yates did. You stand up to unconstitutionality wherever you find it, including, perhaps most importantly, in the Oval Office. But Pam Bondi won't do that. She sends her lawyers in on these suicide missions, figuratively speaking, arguing in favor of unlawful and unconstitutional conduct, acts, and executive orders by Donald Trump. And they're losing 96% of the time. You know, friends, it reminds me of what I always told my homicide prosecutors when I was chief of homicide at the DC U.S. Attorney's Office. I said, you know, never are we more vital in our role, in our responsibilities as prosecutors, as when we are declining to bring a case, declining to ask the grand jury to indict somebody. Because you have to follow not just the facts, not just the law, but the Constitution. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.